Madam Secretary, please start the meeting.
Chair, the meeting is now being recorded.
Thank you. I would like to call the regular meeting of April 22nd, 2024 to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, Republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Will the Secretary call roll?
Commissioner Benninger,
Present.
Commissioner Escamilla, Commissioner Leo,
Here.
Commissioner Ramos,
Present.
Commissioner Wu,
Here.
Vice Chair Oliva, Chair Pham.
Here.
Chair quorum has been reached at 5:33.
Thank you. Before we begin, I would like to remind my fellow commissioners to turn your microphone on when speaking and off when not speaking. And when speaking, please place the microphone about 4 inches away from you. Members of the public may attend Plan Commission meetings in person or virtually via Zoom. I now invite the Commission Secretary to describe the way the public can access and participate in this meeting.
This meeting is being live streamed via our portal at www.sana-ana.primegov.com/public/portal and to YouTube at www.youtube.com/City of Santa Ana videos. If you would like to provide public comment, you may do so in the following ways. Join the meeting via Zoom, enter meeting ID number 863-9912-0192. When the item that you would like to comment on is being discussed, select the hand icon to let us know you would like to speak. You will be called upon by the name you entered. You can also join the meeting by calling 669-900-6833. Enter meeting ID number 863-9912-0192. When the item that you would like to comment on is being discussed, press 9 to let us know you would like to speak. You will be called upon by the last 3 digits of your phone number. After you are called upon, you may press 6 to unmute yourself. For those who are attending this meeting in person and would like to provide public comment, please fill out a request to speak form and turn it into the secretary. All speakers will have 3 minutes to speak, and I will alert you when your time is up.
Moving on to public comments on non-agenda and non-public hearing items. Madam Secretary, does anyone wish to speak?
If you're attending this meeting in person and would like to comment on non-agenda or non-public hearing items, please fill out a request to speak form and turn it into a secretary. If you're participating via Zoom and would like to comment on non-agenda or non-public hearing items, please select the hand icon and unmute yourself. If you're calling in and would like to comment on non-agenda or non-public hearing items, please dial 9 and then 6 to unmute yourself. We have 2 speakers in person.
We have Mr. Peter Berger. He's speaking in relation to the Related Bristol.
Chairman Pham, members of the Santa Ana Planning Commission, thank you for your time tonight. My name is Peter Berger. I'm here tonight to speak in favor of Related Bristol, the visionary plan to redevelop a 41-acre, half-century-old shopping center on South Bristol Street, across from South Coast Plaza, into a mixed-use model for future growth in Santa Ana and the region. I'm speaking tonight on as both a 10-year Santa Ana homeowner who just loves this city and its potential, as well as a professional. I'm a registered California architect in the state of registered California architect, and I'm principal director of design for MVE Partners. I had the actual privilege of designing and being the principal in charge of Rafferty that was just brought to market in downtown Santa Ana. And I'm not saying that because I see Ellie here, right? But it's good to see you, buddy. As a resident, Related Bristol is precisely the type of redevelopment that will elevate the city's reputation as a special community to live and work for years to come. The project's 13 acres of programmed public open space for families just like mine to meet and connect with friends will become a new destination for culture and community and a gateway to our city. As an architect, this project is all you could ever ask for, with strong programming and planning principles represented throughout the master plan. Replacing aging retail and vast expanses of parking with a vibrant, highly walkable, people-first mixed-use community is an opportunity to realize the city's vision to create a new urban village with the character and appropriate density for the rest of South Coast Metro. The time is now to put this once-in-a-generation proposal on your Planning Commission agenda and ultimately recommend Related Bristol to the City Council for approval. Waiting any longer for a project of this scale only adds unnecessary risk of the project going away. From my professional experience working especially in this state with various different developers like Related California, the longer you wait on a decision the longer you wait as decision makers, it likely puts the project at risk. As a resident who believes in Santa Ana and its future, please act now and set formal hearings to consider the gift that Related Bristol truly is to our city. Thank you for your time and consideration.
We have a second speaker, Loma Jorge.
Hello, everybody. Chairman Pham and Santa Ana Commissioners. I'm Irma Jauregui. I also have been living in Santa Ana since 1979. My husband and I have 2 children, and we've raised our families here and our businesses here. I'm a financial planner, real estate advisor, and my husband's a general contractor, commercial. I love the city. So let me read, so otherwise I'll just go all over the page. Nearly 2 years ago, I learned about Related Bristol and the plan they had, which visionary in the Metro South Town Square across from South Coast Plaza. And this is a vital area for our community that has been like this for more than 50 years. It's the largest and most important sales tax producing, and that is going to be my key point. The Metro Town Square is the go-to center for many of us for everyday services and shopping, but this 41 acre, I think it's getting older. It needs a rehab. Our society has changed the economic dynamics, and a lot of stores are closing because of this. So they move to online shopping. Related Bristol will bring new vitality to the city. It'll make it more beautiful. In the process, it will bring a multiplier effect of benefiting and generating taxes from the job itself, but also will create new jobs for our residents, new opportunities for the mom and pop shops and the entrepreneurs that everybody wants to support, because they'll support those businesses that are coming to here. We need quality residential and businesses of all income levels because they feed a city. This will bring employment and business. I'm excited when I listen to the proposal to develop the center, the dynamics, the change, the green space, the senior area. Our community is going to be needing seniors. I'm advocating for that. With this new urban village, there'll be activities for all the city. Since my family's background is in construction, I know that our trades, our unions will be having more employment. Our city employees will have more work. Otherwise, when we lose our tax base, we might have to cut employment. So I care for the city. Many of you know me. I'm very involved with the community. I sit on several boards. I'm in Wilshire Square. I'm the event planner, historic resources. I deeply care about the city, that we are the shining star. We're the county seat. So for that reason, this is like, I'll put this down. We're more like an orchestra. The developer is one piece of the orchestra. The city is the other. We residents are the other. Let's make music together. Let's not have the reputation of dragging our feet. So with that, please support it and let's move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. No other speakers?
We don't have any other speakers.
Thank you. Moving on to the consent calendar. Is there a motion to approve item A, minutes from April 8th, and item B, excused absences?
I so move. Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Benninger, a second by Commissioner Leo. Madam Secretary, please call roll.
Commissioner Benninger,
Aye.
Commissioner Escamilla,
Aye.
Commissioner Leo,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramos,
Aye.
Commissioner Wu,
Aye.
Vice Chair Oliva,
Aye.
Chair Pham.
Aye.
Motion approved by unanimous consent.
Chair, one question. Not sure if minor technicality, if I have to be recognized as being here for the record prior to voting, or if it doesn't really matter at this point.
Commissioner Escamilla, I took notes for the record that you arrived at 5:34 p.m.
Thank you.
This is a time and place for sorry, before we continue, did we take out the item for the review of the site plan?
That is item 2 on tonight's agenda.
Okay.
Item 1 will be the capital improvement program.
That concludes the That concludes the consent calendar. Moving on to public hearing. I will now review the process for the public hearing so that everyone knows what to expect. Staff will provide a presentation and ask questions from the commission. The public hearing will then be open. The applicant will then be given the opportunity to speak, limited to 15 minutes. Members of the public will then be given the opportunity to comment, limited to 3 minutes. The applicant will then be given the opportunity to respond to comments made by the public, limited to 5 minutes. The public hearing will then be closed. Discussion will then return to the commission with formal action taken to approve, deny, or continue review of the application. Please consider following suggestions when organizing your comments. Please state your name and address, which is voluntary. State whether you support, oppose, or are neutral to the proposal. Statement should include all pertinent facts within your knowledge. Please note, decisions on this matter is final unless appealed within 10 days by any interested individuals or party. Recommendations on this item will be forwarded to the city council at a later date for final determination. Moving on to item number 1, this is a time and place for the general plan consistency finding for the fiscal year 2024-2025 capital improvement. Before we begin, do any of the commissioners have anything they wish to disclose with regard to this item? Seeing none, Public Works staff will now provide a brief presentation.
Good evening, everyone, Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners. My name is Haley Gilbert. I'm with the city's Public Works Agency. I'm here to present the fiscal year 24-25 proposed capital improvement plan. The capital improvement plan is a fiscal document for our capital expenditures in public works. The capital improvement plan is part of the city's budget and will be presented to City Council during the first reading of the proposed budget on June 4th. On an annual basis, Public Works presents to the Planning Commission for your review of the city's proposed capital improvement program solely for consistency with the general plan. So we wanted to highlight some of the recently completed CIP projects that took place over the last year. In your top upper corner is Ed Caruthers Park. We also have Santiago Park Gas House, primarily the playground area. To your bottom left-hand corner is West Willett Street, protected bike lanes from Fairview to Rate. In that center is San Lorenzo Sewer Lift Station. And finally, we have Flower Street Sewer Main improvements. This slide shows all of the funding sources that are relied on for the proposed fiscal year 24-25 capital improvement program. The local funding consists of gas tax, and primarily these funds go towards our street improvement projects, consisting of SB1 road maintenance and rehabilitation funds and other HUDA funds that we receive. General fund monies, refuse vehicle impact fee, Transportation System Improvement Area, TSIA fees, and Federal Clean Water Enterprise funding. For the grant funding, we have Congestion Management and Air Quality, CMAQ funds, Active Transportation Program funding, ATP, Measure M, and that actually consists of both local fair share, which would be on the top, and competitive funding programs. So we have a hybrid of Measure M funding that we receive from OCTA. Additionally, Community Development Block Grant Program, CDBG funding. This is an example of our CIP book's one-year budget, which serves as our table of contents for all of the project worksheets that comprise the book. And it's organized having projects listed by category comprising of street improvements, traffic improvements, water, sewer, municipal facilities, and parks, library. Additionally, we have funding sources and totals listed in this matrix, as well as category subtotals and totals. That way it's easy for you to read and reference the document pagination to the book. Also referencing all the different funding sources up top that we just discussed: CDBG, general fund, area fees, gas tax, Measure M, and other, which has descriptions of the different types of grant funding associated. It's going to be that SB1 funding and other grant funding not listed here, such as ATP. So going straight into the fiscal year 24-25 proposed capital improvement plan as a whole for next year, it's proposed at $31 million. And that's broken up into the various different categories: street improvements at $19,984,920, traffic improvements, $9.5 million, utility, drainage, and lighting, which doesn't have any new monies allocated in this year's CIP, but I do want to note that there is a total of $48 million currently in active construction for water and sewer projects. So a lot of their funding is tied up in active construction right now. And municipal improvements, that is comprised primarily of those CDBG funding that I do want to mention is pending council consideration on May 7th. So we did include that for your consideration, but just note that that is a draft. This is a proposed funding. Going into the street improvement category, we have 3 planning projects that we historically have on our 7-year CIP planning document, and that is comprised of pavement management, project development, and right-of-way management. So these help us do citywide programs related to these operations related to these programs. And moving into roadway improvements, we have 6 projects that comprise the $9.7 million. And they are going to be Bedford Road rehab from Main Place to North City Limit, Civic Center rehab Minter to Santiago, Civic Center rehab Shelton to Flower, Fairview Avenue rehab South City Limits to Segerstrom, Grand Avenue rehab Edinger to McFadden, Rate Street rehab McFadden to First. So that is our RMRA funded projects. For street and bridge improvements, we have 5 projects totaling $640,000. And it's going to be comprised of some of the Bristol street improvements in Memory Lane, Bristol street improvements phase 4, and Warner phase 1 and 2 improvements. For local street rehabilitation projects, we have 3 totaling $7.4 million, and that's going to be our alley improvements and local street preventative maintenance. For traffic improvements, this category is funded at $9.5 million for next year's CIP, and it's broken up into 3 subcategories. We have traffic improvements that are going to be the Safe Route to School projects taking place at all of these locations: Mendez Intermediate, ALA, Santiago Elementary, and Sierra Intermediate. So there's going to be at all of these sites Safe Route to School pedestrian improvements and access updates, as well as Orange Avenue Complete Streets project. We have 4 planning projects for next year, and those are going to be the traffic signal equipment replacement project, bike lane project development, traffic management plans, and traffic safety project development. Those are annual projects that we have that help the traffic engineering division with their planning. For traffic safety and mobility, we have 7 proposed projects comprising of $7.1 million. And they're going to be Bristol Street protected bike lanes from First to Civic Center, Bristol Street protected bike lanes from St. Andrew to Edinger, Bristol protected bike lanes from Warner to St. Andrew, Jackson Elementary and Diamond Elementary safe routes to school, and some other safe routes to school projects that are listed for MacArthur Intermediate and Taft Elementary, Madison Elementary, Roosevelt Walker Academy, Century High, as well as Santa Ana High and Henninger Elementary safe routes to school projects. For city and park facility improvements that are pending that funding request, we have $2.35 million proposed for different park improvements. We have Angels Park cool pavement treatment, El Salvador Park cool pavement treatment, Logan Cheppas Park redesign, outdoor library at Jerome Park, sidewalk improvements. It's another phase of Jerome Park because if you remember, we've been funding that in different segments. And so those park facility improvements are $2 million, and the $300,000 is a project that is proposed to rehabilitate the parking facilities on Main Street in the South Main corridor. For our proposed 7-year plan, we have a budget of $113 million, and it's broken up into these different categories where street improvements have $57 million, traffic improvements have $53 million. Utility, drainage, and lighting, they don't have, we'll have to update that number in our next draft because they didn't quite have their 7-year numbers. And municipal improvements were $2.3 million right now. So that's going to conclude our presentation, and I'm open to any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Does the commission have any question for staff? Commissioner Beninger?
What's missing out of these are the numbers that are coming through the various grants. For example, Bristol, widening of Bristol is still a project that's ongoing. It's using a lot of federal grants, but you don't show that in here, correct? Because I can't believe $500,000 is all that we're going to spend on Bristol this coming year.
It's true that this presentation was prepared a little bit early before budget direction, which we just got a little bit updated numbers. So you will notice that there is more Bristol monies being allocated. However, I do know that this CIP, this 1 year, it's only going to be new funding for proposed. So a lot of the monies that we have for Bristol, if they were already proposed in previous CIPs, they're waiting for that phase of Bristol to be ready. And you're correct that we do not have any new arterial capacity enhancement funding for Bristol in this proposed CIP.
Also with questions, thank you.
Commissioner Escamilla?
Yeah, no, thank you for that presentation. I guess the first thing, you kind of explained it a little bit, is that new numbers were added, just because I'm seeing some inconsistency with the widening numbers that were provided on the PowerPoint versus what is included in the capital improvement worksheet. If you total everything up, it's roughly around 2.283 million. I think it was showing is about 600 there. So I'm just looking for consistency within those numbers. I believe, in fact, you all round up and have it at about 2.3 million in the line item breakdown under the CIP 1-year budget. So there's just like some questions there that I have as far as what numbers are accurate. I presume that the worksheet numbers are the accurate numbers or the most up-to-date numbers?
Yes, so what's in front of you on the staff report and actually in the agenda is corrected numbers, and the presentation was loaded previously, and I don't think that the updated presentation was swapped.
Okay.
So I was presenting on number, and that's why you kind of caught me. I'm like, oh, I want to say the new numbers, but I'm presenting on. Excellent point that the CIP is a draft. So you could see that every version is going to be a little bit different until it goes to that final reading.
Okay, yeah, and it only brought up just because, at least for me, and I don't know how the rest of the commission feels, but I've been on a policy kick of anything we can do to reduce the number of widenings, even under active projects. It's just a particular perspective that I have. So Yeah, I just saw those numbers and noted them more immediately. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have caught it if I was looking at the aggregate. So no worries, but definitely just making sure the accurate numbers are included. And for this, like you explained, it was only new money, not any money that's currently allocated. So we're not seeing total project cost, only the adjustments.
Correct. So these are only new monies in the amount of, it's 31 million in front of you, but I think it's closer to 36 million actually. And that's updated every day from Budget Office. Thank you, City Council, for the funding. So yes, you are correct that these are new monies. And that way we don't go with 30 different projects asking for the green light. So as soon as these get adopted, then our engineers can start charging to them and generating revenue to the city.
Okay, perfect. And then as far as, I guess, staging and my understanding of the way that these different projects are working together, some of the widenings kind of precede the additional improvements for bikeways along those particular arterials. So essentially the bikeways along Bristol and the bikeways along Warner, they would be dependent upon the expansion and the other kind of widening bucket, I guess.
Yes,
Okay.
it's true. And you are right that we have two major widening projects, Bristol and Warner. And you're right about the bike components that we usually receive grant funding supplementarily.
Okay, yeah, those are my questions, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Leo?
Could you go to the slide that you have with the different buckets of money? Did I see correctly that no general fund money is going to this? None?
You are correct that general fund is not a primary funding source in our CIP. However, it has been updated. General fund, usually they're tied to supplemental budget requests that come out in May. So it's just bad timing that we have to prepare this way in advance, but actually you'll see more general fund being added. I know that in this presentation, we receive 2.5 million annually for our street improvements from general fund funding source, as well as $1 million for alley improvements from general fund. So that brings me to 3.5 million every year for our CIP and general fund that's in there. Additionally, we negotiated $2.4 million annually in refuse monies that would be going to the general fund that is reallocated toward our pavement because those heavy vehicles are damaging my streets and roads. So we do have at least about $5 million that we can claim, but you're correct that primarily we operate off of a lot of grants in public works.
Okay, and then my other question is that when you do the budget portion of it, do you slice out Measure X funds that go to this, or do no Measure X funds go to this? Because I know Measure X was laid out as public safety. There were several things that the community thought they were getting.
It's true. You're right. So that 3.5 million that I referenced is actually a benefit of Measure X. They were given to us on the premise that that funding generated enough revenue to offset the general fund for us to get those revenues. In terms of Measure X funding, I don't really know if we've had that in the CIP before.
It's not broken out. I mean, it's always, obviously, we have this revenue stream. It's there. It could go away in 5 or 6 years. So the question is, what's relying upon that? How does it work? Because if it stays like this and then it goes away, then there's this hole we got to figure out what to do with. When you guys do, if you have a 7-year plan, which you do, in 5 years it's gone, what do we do? And how can Planning Commission kind of help kind of guide the process?
Sure. Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners. My name's Jason Gabriel. I'm with the Public Works Agency as well. Historically, we have had some projects that use Measure X, but in general, we do not receive Measure X funding. And in this proposed CIP, there is no Measure X funding. So
Okay.
It's used for other purposes. So
Okay.
not specifically for capital
Gotcha.
projects.
And so the 90% of the funding that goes to road improvements basically comes from the gas tax, the first portion, and grants. And you guys are very aggressive with grants and successful with most grants. So
Absolutely.
I'm saying this because the general public needs to know that it's not coming out of general fund, nor is it really coming out of Measure X. It's coming out of your work and the
Correct,
gas
correct.
taxes that they're paying.
Yeah, historically in my career, we received very little general fund. Council's been very gracious to authorize certain pots of money. Alleys are one, some road money in recent years. But in general, yes, you're correct. The vast majority of our funding comes from discretionary sources like gas tax or the Measure M fair share that we get from OCTA. And then we use that money to leverage to get grants. And as you said, we're very aggressive in getting all types of different kinds of grants that are infrastructure related to fund all the projects that you see us building.
Thank you. Those are my questions.
Commissioner Wu?
So the tax that you put on gas is why our gas is high than in Garden Grove. Is that true?
Again, well, gas tax is actually a state tax.
Okay.
It is
So when you
funding that
say
we
gas
receive
tax
from
is
the.
what-
I'm sorry, go ahead.
What you receive, that's what you're talking about? I just need a clarification.
Correct. The city receives a couple of different flavors of gas tax. One is called the highway user tax, which is kind of the traditional gas tax. A lot of that goes to operation costs and debt service on the residential street project we did about 15 years ago. And then the newer one is called SB1, or the roadway maintenance and repair, our MRA funding. And that is what primarily funds our arterial improvements, large street improvements.
I don't know if this is a traffic or utility lighting issue, but for the past 25 years, from Bristow to Alona, from 21st Street to Santa Clara, it's an annual outage of 1 to 2 times a year that the lights go off at that neighborhood, but not across the street on Santa Clara and, not towards 17th Street. And it's curious to me is why do they go out, right? Sometimes it's because someone's racing down Bristol. So that may be a traffic issue. I know we got new lighting on Bristol and Santa Clara, but that doesn't stop people from using that as a superhighway, so I don't know if any of your traffic dollar for Bristol is going to slow traffic, or I don't know. But we have to call Edison to always try to turn it back on. But it's just curious to why in 25 years, every year it goes out. Some is maintenance, some is in that little box that.
Is there a specific time of year that this occurs, or?
Yeah, I can't remember the time, but yeah.
We can definitely have our traffic department, our streetlight folks get in touch with you on specifics and try to track down that issue and understand what's
It's just
happening.
curious to me. Then I need a little more clarification on 2 projects, the pavement at El Salvador and the redesign of Chepa Park.
So I know that the cool pavement treatments are, I haven't had a chance to take a look at our application, but I know that Jason has the project description so he can read a little bit more about the project.
So Cool Pavement Project is, the intent is to, it uses a different, like a seal coat. Various agencies have used it to attempt to mitigate how much heat is absorbed by the pavement. It's kind of a pilot project to see how it can be effective in our park projects. So that's at El Salvador, and there's and Angels Park as well.
And I believe that it was the parking lot that they're going to be repaving from the black asphalt to that lighter asphalt to reflect the sun in a different way.
And Chepa Park, is that related to the handball court?
That's in Logan neighborhood, yes. I believe our Parks Department has been doing quite a bit of outreach with that neighborhood to come up with kind of a strategy. I don't think there's any specifics at this point as to what the actual improvements are. It's just providing funding so that that process can begin.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ramos?
Yes, thank you for the presentation. First, I just wanted to note that the attachments for this item are not available on the agenda online. So I tried from the iPad on my phone and none of them are loading. So I just wanted to let staff know so we can make sure they're uploaded, likely when things are updated. And
We did notice that they're available for download, but the view is having an issue to view it only.
Yeah.
So if you download it, you can view it that way, but you're correct that we're working on getting those links updated to the
Perfect.
public.
Thank you. And then I did have a question on, I don't remember which slide, but it mentions the local improvements and the alleyways being part of that. Yes, so for the local street rehabilitation projects, my question was if those alleys and local streets and, yeah, like if it, have those areas already been identified throughout the city? Or what is that identification process for the work that will happen with the funds for this fiscal year? Or the fiscal year in the plan?
So they have not been identified. Typically what we do for alleys, as you know, there's a lot of alleys in poor condition in Santa Ana, and it's a big challenge. So we try to affect the most residents that we can in the selection process. So we use various criteria. One is what kind of use is the alley seeing? Like if there's an apartment complex that abuts an alley and a lot of that traffic comes into the alley, then that alley would be prioritized higher than, that would be one factor. Another factor is, it's the same as we do for streets, is the pavement condition. So it's basically a grade from 0 to 100. We're trying to do the ones that have the worst PCI, so the closest to 0. That's another factor. If it doesn't have like we prioritize asphalt alleys over concrete alleys. Most of the concrete alleys are in really good shape or relatively good shape. It's the asphalt ones that are in very bad shape. If it doesn't, there might be, if there's a lot of garages on the alley, that would be considered a little less than if like there was an apartment. Mm-hmm. But if there's no access in the alley, then that would be a lower priority. So those are some of the criteria we use to make those selections. We also looked to the community. We get requests or complaints on certain alleys' condition. We try to factor that into the equation as well.
Thank you for sharing all of that. So my question was more so to understand also what steps the community or residents can take to also make recommendations for alleys. So how, like if there was a resident in the audience today or somebody watching at home that can think of a really bad alley, how can they make that known to Public Works so that you all can see whether or not if it's that criteria you described?
The best way is to use the My Santa Ana app and just make a complaint on, you know, what issue specifically, where is that alley? What is the issue that you have with the alley? Then that will get back to staff and we can add that to our prioritization process.
Thank you. And is that a similar process for the local streets?
The local streets are a little
Preventative
different. So local streets, I mentioned that we were still paying debt service with our gas tax on a neighborhood project we did 15 years ago. That project, we repaved all of the asphalt residential streets in Santa Ana. And so this program is now maintaining that investment. So we basically rotate around the city. There's 10 areas. And so each year we try to tackle each like a different area and maintain all the streets in there. So it's primarily a slurry seal project because most of these streets are in fairly good shape, but we don't want to see them deteriorate to the point where it's going to cost a lot more to maintain those streets. So again, it's a yearly maintenance program that we rotate through the city.
Thank you. And which area will you be focusing on? Or yeah, whose turn is it?
Let me see.
I know we were working on Henninger Park last year, and I don't know if we finished it.
While you look for that, I think this is really great information. And I think it'd be great if the city can share some of this, just sharing that you are doing, I know that a lot of people complain about our streets online every day. So I think it'd be great to share that you are doing preventative work and that you do rotate areas throughout the city and just sharing however you can what areas next so that people are aware of the work that Public Works is doing, I think could be really helpful.
Thank you for that feedback. We definitely will incorporate that.
I do not have that information here, but we can provide that for you.
I'll wait for the Instagram post.
There you go.
I know that we were working on Henninger Park. We didn't finish last year. Our goal was to move into Pacific Park area after Henninger Park, but I can definitely.
I think that's the Concrete Street, different process. This is, we'll give you the correct area.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That'd be helpful.
Absolutely.
That's all for me today. Thank you, or for now.
Vice Chair.
Thank you for the presentation. I did have a question regarding the 2024-25 proposed street improvements. And is there a calendaring that we're doing to mitigate traffic? Is there anything that we're doing so that it's not all construction on multiple different streets where there's no way to get out of it?
So the streets that you see there are actually we're going to begin the process of designing those streets. Let's see what we got. We got, especially like the civic centers, those are brand new streets we haven't considered yet. So yes, we will look at these as it relates to all of the active current projects that we're designing. I think the days of so much construction happening at once, the COVID years where we kind of, nobody's on the streets, let's start, and then we had a ton of money coming in to fund this type of improvement. As you see, this is a more conservative, constrained CIP. It's only 31, $35 million, somewhere in there. So yes, we're doing that coordination, but even a worst case scenario, there's not enough projects there to cause what we saw in the last few years, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a few items, not completely related, but I'll just go down. I'm wondering for the street or pavement improvement, if we've seen signs of additional work that's needed to be done due to street vending. I know that, sometimes I walk around, certain vendors will let the grease fall onto the pavement, and there's discoloration, it'll affect the pavement more than the usual wear and tear of public use. If within our funds, if that's something that we're addressing.
That would be more of a maintenance concern that our maintenance department would address because it's very localized.
Right.
These projects are, large scale, at least block to block. But definitely that's something that our maintenance department can look to, like, you're basically creating a pothole,
right,
with that scenario. So
but it doesn't count for these funds that we're discussing today in terms of pavement repairs and things like that.
that's the gas tax money that I mentioned goes to operations, goes to, that isn't part of this, but it goes to specifically like pothole repair and roadway maintenance. So yes.
And then I know that we've had a couple of projects come before us with abandonment of certain unused portion of street widening that we've abandoned and then sold to property developers. Do those funds are accounted for in your budget, or does it go somewhere else?
You're referring to if we do sell a property and then the
Right.
proceeds from that sale, how do those get incorporated into projects?
Right. Especially land that was a result of a planned expansion, but no longer is needed for that expansion per se. And so does the sale of that parcel, it goes to capital improvement, or does it go to another fund?
No, correct. So the monies that from the sale of properties are usually, they're purchased with either transportation dollars or a grant that's specific to that project. And in both those scenarios, that money has to go back to a similar use. So definitely it would come back to this type of infrastructure project, but that would not be part of the CIP. It would just be a budget item where we would do an internal transfer that puts those in the appropriate fund once that transaction has been completed.
And then I saw quite a bit of safe, I'm sorry, I don't remember the term, but safe school route.
Safe routes to school.
Safe route for schools. What does that entail?
So the intent of those projects is to look at all the pathways that students travel from their homes to school, and then look at, different types of improvements that can be done, whether it's crosswalks, whether it's, you see bulb outs, if there's missing sidewalk, any types of accessibility treatments that we can do to make more efficient pathways so that, kids aren't crossing the street at an inopportune time. Sometimes it includes education too, outreach to the school. Here's kind of our plan. Here's where it'd be safest for the students to cross. And all those come together in a project. A lot of striping and signage too is included in those projects.
And the focus on, those items, is that in relation to the type of grants that you receive? Or is it more of a selection within the agency to identify that as a crucial use of funds?
So we have various planning documents that look at pedestrian safety. We use those documents. There's the SAMHSA document. We have Vision Zero, our bike master plan, our pedestrian master plan. We have all these documents that speak to priorities. Our traffic team is the one who applies for most of these grants, whether they're active transportation, ATP grants, or the Safe Routes to School, or any of that flavor of grant, they'll apply for those, and they'll use their existing plans along with community input to determine specific improvements. And that's the basis of the grants. And we talked about how aggressive we are and how successful we are. That team deserves a lot of credit. They do a ton of work to apply for a lot of projects, and we're one of the most successful agencies in the state at getting active transportation or Safe Routes to School grants.
And lastly, I know that we've been doing a lot of work providing bike lanes within the arterial streets. Do we have data kind of studying the efficacy of those bike lanes, whether or not they're in use quite often? Because I know that eventually we'll want to do more work along those lines, whether or not we've kind of taken a pause, take a look to see if they're being used at a high volume, or whether or not funds can be used differently.
Sure. I do know that a lot of the grants require kind of a monitoring after construction to see what the effects of the proposed improvements were. We can definitely coordinate with our traffic team to share some of that information. And as aggressive as we've been, there's a lot of that infrastructure out there, but we're still working to get it to a point where it's contiguous and you can actually get around the town. A lot of times you'll have like one street that has bike lane to here and here, but then the connections aren't there yet. So we're working on that. Bristol's a great example. We do have segments that are great. They have the protected bike lanes, but then we have other segments where it's just painted. And some of these grants that we have here are making those connections. Ultimately, we'll have from Warner to 17th Street. So at that point, you're really starting to get a system developed where a lot of the connectivity is there. So it'll get better over time.
So Harbor as well. It'll start at Westminster and then it'll just slowly disappear.
Yeah.
That's all for me. Do any of the commissioners have any additional comments? Commissioner Leo?
I think in addition to the Santa Ana app, residents should contact their council member. Drag the council member to the alley that's not paved. Let the council member know that they want their alley paved and taken care of. It's another way to do it, and they need to be responsive to the residents.
There you go.
Just have one question.
Benjamin?
With more and more electric cars on the road, we're seeing a reduction in the gasoline tax?
The gasoline tax has been declining, not substantially, but they also tend to overestimate the amount that will be available. And each year it seems to be that we're not quite getting to the revenue that the state programs or anticipates budgets. So yes, it is declining.
How much of a shortfall has it been in the last couple of years?
It's been about, we can get back with you on the exact number, but about at least
ballpark,
500,000 range to 900,000 range.
What percentage is that roughly?
So we receive at least $7.5 million in RMRA funding, and then additional monies in the HUDA funds that Jason mentioned. So I can get back to you on that exact percentage because I have a whole spreadsheet for it, and we do track year-to-year forecasts. And you're correct that with the decline, that's kind of why I think the council did generate that Measure, the general fund that you see in the report, the 3.5 million, that is Measure X funding. That's the only general fund funding that we have in our 7-year CIP. And that was one of the topics of discussion, that annually for our pavement, we need $30 million. So how are we going to get there with declining revenue sources?
And it is with the adoption of SB1, so the traditional gas tax has decreased, but then they introduced SB1, which added a different pot. So it's in motion, up and down.
Commissioner Wu.
Since we have you here, thank you, and thank you for coming. I'm going to take a long view to make the statement. I've been with the city, living here as a resident for the last 30 years. In my early days as an organizer, it was not very equitable in terms of public works. We had to fight for everything. Like it took 20 years for Artesia Pilar to get some alleys paved in their neighborhood. But I like to say that I like your systems of notification and getting back. I like you going out to the community and talking with them and having someone that is knowledgeable to talk about the project and to take input, like what you're doing over in the Logan neighborhood with Shepherd Park. I think open and transparency, public work is not easy. Our streets is getting better than it is before. But then we have development that goes on. We have rain, and that's why the parking lot area has been delayed for my unveiling of the Chinatown Memorial to Chinese immigrants. So I'm hoping that it will get fixed soon by August 3rd. That's another thing. So, but because of the communication, I think that, there's always things that we could improve. There's always areas of the community that have not gotten a lot. So I hope the public works staff, in taking a long view, we're trying to improve, trying to advance things forward. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Commissioner Escamilla.
Yeah, no, Jason, thank you for being here. And I think, obviously for me and my particular set of concerns around widenings, it's actually kind of weird, I guess, to be in this particular position, because there is complete conformance, as far as I can tell, with the general plan and what's laid out here. Like, that is, I think, beyond question. But for me, I do question the wisdom of continuously widening streets, and the detrimental impact that has. I think in the particular projects that you have here, these are streets in sections, in phases that have already kind of cleared the adjacent property uses, right? I don't think there's a single demolition here in any of these widening, anything in the widening category. And then that being paired with the additional kind of bike lanes and the built up infrastructure for pedestrians and cyclists, kind of overall, it's, you have to do some damage to do some good. But I would, caveat that statement with, if I was to see, I guess, the, future phase that is going to essentially wipe out both sides of Bristol north of 17th, that is something that I would, ask and basically put a vote against, right? So that's where I'm at. I don't know if that's the, what people feel up here, but anything where we're still knocking down people's homes in order to widen the streets and make it safe for a few people to bike in front of them, I would caution against the city moving in that direction for its limited capital improvement projects and availability that we have. It's not that it's maybe not necessary, but it is, at least to me, a lower priority. But in this case, again, the actions of the demolition have already occurred. So I'm seeing that there is no inconsistency with the general plan, that in fact it is consistent, and I then have a problem with the general plan not addressing addressing widening specifically. But that's for me, not necessarily worry for you. But yeah, that's just wanted to make sure to kind of publicly state that I would have more heartburn or more of a concern for the phases that will involve future demolition of existing homes for people living in our arterial corridors.
Okay, thank you for your comment.
Thank you, Commissioner Escamilla. So I think that's a good segue to kind of hone in the conversation. The request that's before the commission tonight is to simply find that the CIP is consistent or not with the general plan. While this is a great, robust discussion on topics like gas tax and things like that, if you have policy consideration, as was stated earlier, those should be communicated to the elected officials who appointed you as members on the Planning Commission. But the ask tonight is for the general plan conformance finding.
We'll now open the public hearing to the public. Madam Secretary, have we received any communications, or is there members of the public that would like to comment on this item?
We have not received public comment prior to the 3:30 p.m. deadline. If you are attending this meeting in person and would like to comment on this item, please fill out a request to speak form and turn it into the secretary. If you are participating via Zoom and would like to comment on this item, please select the hand icon and unmute yourself. If you are calling in and would like to comment on this item, please dial 9 and then 6 to unmute yourself. Chair, we do not have any speakers.
Thank you. Seeing no speakers, public hearing is now closed. Is there a motion to approve this matter?
I'll make a motion to adopt a resolution finding the fiscal year 2024-25 capital improvement plan consistent with the general plan.
I second that motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Leo, a second by Commissioner Benninger. Madam Secretary, please call roll.
Commissioner Benninger?
Aye.
Commissioner Escamilla?
Aye.
Commissioner Leo?
Aye.
Commissioner Ramos?
Aye.
Commissioner Wu?
Aye.
Vice Chair Oliva?
Aye.
Chair Pham?
Aye.
Motion approved by unanimous consent.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Moving on to item number 2. This is the time and place for the site plan review number 2023-03 for the property located at 521 South Flower Street, located within the Heninger Park Specific Development number 40 zoning district. Before we begin, do any of the commissioners have anything they wish to disclose with regard to this item?
Yes, I need to disclose that the president of the Heninger Park Neighborhood Association got in contact with me in support of this project.
Also, I got an email as well. But it was also the same email that got circulated.
Any other disclosures?
I guess it was the same one as Alan. I think we all got that email.
Well, seeing no other disclosure, Andrea will now provide a brief presentation. Andrea?
Chair, I'd just like to give a quick introduction for Andrea Haywood. She joined our department about 2 years ago. She's an associate planner with a bachelor's degree in English from UC Berkeley and a master's degree in historic preservation from USC, making her the city's first in-house certified preservation planner. So we're very proud of her skills and talents, and you might have seen her at HRC meetings more routinely, but she's here for the first time before the Planning Commission.
Welcome, Andrea.
Thank you, Ali, and good evening, Chair and Commissioners. It's nice to be here for the first time with Planning Commission. Item number 2 is for site plan review application 2023-03 for the property addressed 521 South Flower Street. This item is a request to allow a major residential addition and exterior alterations to an existing single-family home. Staff recommends approval of site plan review number 2023-03 as conditioned. So location and zoning. The subject property's general plan designation is low-density residential or LR7. The zoning is Henninger Park Specific Development, which is SD 40. Surrounding land uses to the north, east, and south are all single-family residential, and to the west is multiple family residence. The lot size is approximately 0.14 acres or 6,185 square feet. And the primary building on site is 888 square feet. So project description, the existing single-story 888 square foot residence is proposed to be expanded by approximately 354 square feet to accommodate a larger bedroom, a new second bathroom, new laundry, a new office, larger kitchen. However, the overall bedroom count will remain as 2 bedrooms. Exterior alterations consist of restoring the building's original features, which include the original wood windows, siding, the roof, structural elements such as exposed beams and fascia board. And then it also includes demolishing an exterior detached garage in place of a new 751 square foot ADU. And just a reminder that that's ministerial approval and not part of Planning Commission's purview, but it's part of this application. Site would be improved by removing existing front yard metal fencing as part of the condition of approval. And then here's some photos of the site. Photo on the left is the primary front west elevation, and then the side south elevation. And then the photo on the right is same thing, west primary front elevation. And then this is at the rear. The left image is the east rear elevation facing west. And then the image on the right is the garage proposed to be demolished facing east. So existing site plan. So this site plan shows the main house facing Flower Street to the west and the existing detached garage near the property's rear. And the proposed site plan shows the rear addition, which is outlined in red, and the new ADU, which will be placed at the rear where the red arrow is pointing towards. The existing floor plan shows the 888 square foot residence with currently 2 bedrooms. And the proposed floor plan includes the rear addition, which is again outlined in red, and a reconfigured floor plan for the residence. Again, the bedrooms will be enlarged. There'll be a new second bathroom, new laundry, a new office, and a larger kitchen. This is the primary front west elevation. The top image shows the top image shows proposed and the bottom image is existing. So not much is going to change at this elevation. You can see the non-original ramp and handrails will be removed. The front door, which is not original, will be restored to a more compatible craftsman style door. And all the original wood windows on this elevation will be maintained and restored. Now the east rear elevation, the top image shows the proposed addition outlined in red. A new gable will be introduced, as well as a new door and new windows. The windows will be compatible, double hung wood windows, and the door will also be compatible with the craftsman style. And a new attic vent will be added under the new gable roof line. All new siding on the addition will be slightly differentiated from the original siding with a thinner width than original in order to distinguish new from old. And the north side, again, the proposed addition is outlined in red. There will be a new bathroom window added to this elevation. And an existing sliding window will change from double hung to will change to double hung to be consistent with the Craftsman style. And then the south side elevation, again, the addition is outlined in red with a new window for the hallway near the laundry space. And 2 existing sliding windows will be changed to double hung to be consistent. Okay, so as stated previously, this property is located in Henninger Park neighborhood and is subject to SD 40 guidelines. This project, consisting of the rear addition, is considered a major modification as identified in Henninger Park's architectural design guidelines. Therefore, it is subject to Planning Commission site plan review. This property is subject to the City of Santa Ana citywide design guidelines. I think that's stated on the next page. And subject to SD 40 development standards. And additionally, it's reflective of the Craftsman architectural style. CEQA and fiscal impact. Pursuant to CEQA and CEQA guidelines, the project is exempt from further review pursuant to section 15301. And based on this analysis, notice of exemption environmental review number 2024-12 will be filed for this project. There is no fiscal impact associated with this project. And then before I read staff recommendation, just one thing I wanted to point out. Staff has communicated with the applicant regarding the existing landscape, and the applicant has agreed to comply with the minimum landscape requirements. It's not currently in the conditions of approval, but staff is recommending that the commission add it to the condition of approval to meet the minimum landscape requirements. So staff recommends that the commission adopt a resolution approving site plan review number 2023-03 as condition. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the commissioners have any question for staff? Commissioner Benninger?
Yes, just out of curiosity, it's the first time I've been involved in something like this. The Henninger Park Historical District gave out a list of recommendations. Kind of curious, are these recommendations or are these requirements?
I haven't seen, I don't know what
Oh, it
you're.
was provided in our package that we had.
Oh, okay.
And talked about replacing the fence and a number of different things. And they use the word require, I mean recommended, but I'm really wondering whether this is a really required.
I believe that's the neighborhood review.
Correct.
Yeah, so this property did go through neighborhood review and received that comment letter back. So those are recommendations, but staff vets and reviews all neighborhood review statements, and whatever is actually required per the code, we would let the applicant know. And if there's any recommendations in terms of maintaining like historic features, we would tell them it's a recommendation.
Yes, because I noticed the fence is going to be replaced, and one comment here was not, wasn't properly put in, and they're going to replace the fence.
And planning staff required in the condition of approval to remove the existing fence. And if the applicant wishes to put a new fence, then they would do a new front yard fence application.
That's all I have for right now. Thank you.
Commissioner Escamilla?
Yeah, so I guess my understanding is that the fences or the fence ordinance came into effect in the early 90s, I want to say like 94, 95. So did we check the records from the Code Enforcement Division to see whether or not this fence was already present at that time? Because then that would negate the need to have that requirement.
I believe it's existing non-conforming. I can't recall. But I think it was part of just the overall cleaning up the site. It is a deteriorated fence, so we suggest removing it.
Right, okay. And I guess the only other, like, just genuine concern, I guess, here for the residents is the usability of the yard. So this is being a relatively well-traveled site, once you don't have the fencing. I understand kind of that our regulations now go a little bit lower, but I just wanted to see if that was something that we were considering including here at this level and at this body as a requirement, or if that is something that can be stricken. I just want to know what my options are here. So I don't know if we have to require that fence to be changed, improved, or removed versus allowing it to remain in place as legal non-conforming if it is a legal non-conforming structure.
Thank you, Commissioner. So as Andrea pointed out in her presentation, the current condition of the fence is deteriorated, and in approving discretionary actions such as SPRs or CUPs, the municipal code encourages sites with nonconformities or deficiencies to be brought up to as current standards as possible, including aesthetics, sort of level of investment in the property and all that. So while it's certainly within the commission's purview or as part of a maker of a motion to say, approve as conditioned, except strike condition number, whatever, that's certainly in your purview if your colleagues agree with that. However, it is in the spirit of sort of project by project, improving neighborhoods, improving properties, or at least getting salvageable features to be restored or sort of enhanced.
Right. So I guess with the, maybe replacement or repair language, that would be more along the lines of repairing any visibly damaged sections, removing all visible rust, providing additional paint. Is that really kind of the deteriorated condition, or is this thing just kind of falling off of its, foundations?
I can try to show you a photo. It's not super clear. So this is the only photo we have right now, but
Yeah, so that to me looks like paint damage, I guess, or like paint and like rust coming through. But again, just because of the location, it's a highly traveled section, general livability for a person. There is a difference that you get between a 4-foot fence and a 2.5-foot fence with like. Okay, that was my first question. And then question number 2, is there a reason why we're defining the study room as a kind of study room office rather than as a bedroom? So my understanding is anything that's typically like 80 square feet, internal with its own kind of doorways, typically counted as a bedroom regardless. It really has no impact, I think, to me in my decision on this, but I think for the homeowner, there's a difference in value between a 2-bedroom, 2-bath and a 3-bedroom, 2-bath with an office. So it's just valuation that I guess we'd be distinguishing here.
you're asking how we define.
Well, our definition, I think, is 80 square, like any kind of enclosed space that's like can be used as a bedroom that's 80 square feet. This one, I believe, is 110 square feet. So I'm not sure why we just don't define it as a bedroom, or is there a particular reason why we're calling this an office instead?
This property is non-conforming, so in order to add the addition, they couldn't increase the bedroom count, and so they added the office.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Leo?
I had a couple it's more general questions. First of all, I want to thank the applicant for upgrading the property. What you guys have done is great. I think once completed, it will look great. I had 2 questions. One came up around the ADUs as ministerial. I'd really like to know if there's any wiggle room for the planning commission on any ADUs, or did the state basically take that away from you and us? So that the state basically says, if you got a detached garage and you want to do the ADU, you go ahead and do it. Is that pretty much what?
Yeah, we can't take it to planning commission.
Okay. My second question is, and it's probably a general question, which I did bring up when I had my interview around the zoning code, is this is a specific development area. We have upwards of 300. Like, and it's almost like we did spot zoning for 20 years, and we have all these specific developments. How do those jive with the general plan now that we have this updated general plan? And is there a way to slowly eliminate the SD so that we can function a little bit easier? Because it seems such a convoluted process that the applicants all have to go through to do, you guys have to go through. It's more of a general question. That's why I wanted to ask it now since it came up. So
We have close to 100 SDs in the city. Jay-Z could sing a song about them, 99 SDs. But I'll say this, that the zoning code update is actually comprehensively looking at the SDs and seeing how many could be just absorbed into the regular zoning code.
Okay.
It's just as much an implementation difficulty for the general public as it is for staff too, to have to
Yeah.
remember the uniquenesses of close to 99 SDs. This one, it's an historic district at the local
Right,
level.
understood.
Can't make any, promises that this one is one that's appropriate to be absorbed, but initially we have already identified, several that could be just absorbed into regular like M1 zoning or C5 zoning, something like that.
Those are my only questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Wu?
Thank you for coming, Andrea. Welcome. There is craftsman style housing and there are craftsman style housing. Still kind of questionable about that one. My question is this owner occupied?
It's not, no.
So how long have the current owner owned it?
We have the owner here tonight, so if we could
Okay.
ask him.
My concern is because of the poor maintenance of it and the kind of maintenance that they have done. And that there's a new owner that's adding a remodeling, an additional room space and an ADU. Is the owner a real estate person?
Maybe we'll have that
Okay,
question.
We'll find
once
that
the
out,
applicant-
okay. Then I'll wait for the answer because I'm just wondering how the remodeling will be done. There's a lot of remodeling and improvement going on in our community, since COVID. And some are good, some are not as good. Sometimes the plan doesn't materialize the way it is presented, right? So I'll wait to see and talk with the owner. Thank you.
Commissioner Ramos?
No questions for staff at this time. Thank you.
Vice Chair?
I had a clarifying question. Is this property up for historical designation? I wanted to say there was something on the slide, but I just didn't read it fast enough.
Oh, it's currently not on the historic register, but we did communicate per the Henninger Park neighborhood review. They recommended that this could be eligible and for staff to look into it for listing on the register. So I have communicated with the owner and they are interested. So that is a potential to pursue after this.
Thank you.
The color of the house, is that going to be to match existing or will there be a new color?
I believe we're changing the color. Yeah.
And then along similar lines, I know that the ADU is not part of what we're discussing today, but will the ADU match the original home as well?
Yeah, the ADU style is consistent with the main house, and that's part of the typical staff vetting process for these.
And then lastly, I know that it's been proposed to take out that ramp out in front because it's not historically compatible. Just down the road, if there were a need for a ramp, how does one incorporate that within the historical context of the home?
It's possible. I mean, that is something we would work with the owner and figure out a design that's compatible. There's definitely case studies we can look at. It's not out of the question.
And just thank you, just to build on that, if it's something that's like voluntary, it's done through if it's listed, it's done through a historic exterior modification process. If it's something that's being done out of necessity, then it could be a reasonable accommodation request. Those are administrative.
And then, this has very little weight on what we're discussing today, but it looks like the existing garage is a two-car garage, 400 square feet.
Last I communicated with the architect, it was, no, it was actually less than that.
Okay.
I have it in here, but I think it was like under 200 square feet.
My question is, My assumption is that it's going to be a garage ADU conversion since you're not replacing parking.
Oh, we are demolishing that.
Demolishing, right. Demolishing as a conversion,
Demolishing this garage and building a new ADU.
so we're classifying it as a garage conversion ADU or just a detached ADU? I'm just asking, is there a need to replace parking?
No,
No?
no.
Okay. And then that's where I'm a little confused on is the size of the ADU. My understanding, the state allows for an additional 150 square feet added onto the existing footprint of the garage. That's why I was guesstimating that the garage is 400 square feet, additional 150 would be 550, 600 at most.
If they're demolishing it, then they don't have to comply with that 150 requirement. So they can build, as the site allows, they could build up to 1,000 square feet, technically.
That's all for me. Is there any additional comments? Commissioner Beninger?
One thing that you said earlier, and first of all, welcome, I appreciate you being here. The slats of the new construction is going to be different than the slats of the existing. Is that a requirement, or why not make them all look the same?
It's not a requirement. I think it's more because this property may potentially become historic. It has the potential to be listed if the owner wants to. And so down the line, if this is on the historic register, the best practices for historic properties is that you can be able to tell what is new and what is old. So if you don't want it to just look all streamlined and you can't tell what has changed over time. So that's what we recommended to the applicant.
Just interesting, thank you.
Commissioner Escamilla?
Yeah, just a quick question on the side yard landscaping. I guess this would be on the southern side next to the driveway. I just didn't see it in the site plan, but it is admittedly a very small site plan on the 11 by 8. So just checking to see if there is going to be a requirement to maintain at least, I think it's just that foot of, right now it's dirt, but typically we would have it at least landscaped. So I know that there's typically kind of a landscape buffer, but then at this particular site, I'm not sure if that's constrained by the required width for the driveway approach. So I'm just trying to see whether or not that's included. But again, typically, plant drought tolerant, very rugged California natives there, so it doesn't take up too much time, but also doesn't just end up as kind of this desiccated dirt track and or full cement on the site. So just trying to figure out, are we requiring that little strip that we normally would have there?
I'd have to take a look at the site to see, because it does look like there's no room for it, but if there is, we can request that.
Yeah, and again, it is just, I think the site condition, it looks like it's maybe either half a foot or a foot of existing dirt right there. So just making sure that we don't kind of fill that in and or just include that in the landscape plan when approved.
Commissioner Will?
Do we have any interior photograph to see if the architectural integrity of the interior is consistent with craftsman style houses?
We do not, and
you know what I'm talking about, right? The Frank Lloyd Wright type interior wood and all that.
We don't actually regulate the interiors for historic properties in Santa Ana. So we haven't, staff has not gone inside, and it's not part of our purview.
Because this is more like early California wood housing. The overgrowth, is there termite damage in the foundation?
I'm not sure.
Because the grass is right up there.
Is there termite damage?
Commissioner, are you asking if there's termite damage?
Yeah.
Can we go back to the site photos? That's certainly something that the property owner can answer, as asking about termite damage is not really germane to the planning process, but we can certainly ask the property owner.
And what is the broken up concrete there about?
That's part of the driveway.
Oh, they broken up the driveway?
I think it's in poor condition. I'm not sure.
Oh, there's a pile of concrete if you look at the back porch picture.
Are you referring to the backyard?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. See that pile of concrete right there? What is that about?
Perhaps we can ask that. the
Okay.
Applicant.
And what is that thing in front of the garage? Okay.
Commissioner Ramos?
Yeah, so I know a few of us might have questions for the applicant or perhaps additional questions for staff. Staff, can you please remind us what type of, or how well, I guess what our purview is in regards to this, so we know which
Sure.
questions to ask?
So tonight, the planning commission is approving or deciding upon the rear addition. So nothing to do with the ADU or the garage demolition. It's just the rear addition and consistency with the style of the house, meeting the citywide design guidelines.
So questions for the applicant would need to be limited to what you've just stated?
I mean,
It's okay if you say yes, I just, for clarity.
I'll help field this one. So in general, for any application that comes before the planning commission, your questions for staff, your questions for an applicant, and your deliberations at the dais need to be relevant to the application that's in front of you. So if that in a way that helps you arrive at a decision on staff's recommendation.
Thank you.
Yeah, Commissioner. Well, we'll open up the public hearing Would the applicant like to speak on the matter?
Good evening. Thank you. Yes, I just wanna, about this house, knowing all this mess, when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, what else can I do just to get it fixed? And I bought it for myself and my wife, but it's been tough for a year, haven't touched it. It's just to answer your question, that's how I bought it. And when I saw it, I wanted to scratch, but unfortunately I have no hair, so I couldn't scratch. But yes, now I have no choice than to, get it cleaned up so I could make my neighborhood nicer. And I just want to move in the house, but I cannot, it's not livable. And it's been a headache, because there's a lot of hoodlums that go inside the house. They destroy the house inside. They do horrible things. I just told Andrea if you could please help me out, move this a little faster so I could get it cleaned up and just make it look nice for the kids, for my neighborhood, for everyone, because it looks horrible. It looks very horrible.
While you're here, I know that some of the commissioners have some questions, so Commissioner Benninger?
Well, first of all, thank you for investing in Santa Ana. We appreciate that. Secondly, I do like the layout of your plan very much. I compliment you on that. I grew up in a house that was 900 square feet with one bedroom. And if you can imagine 5 children and 2 adults, we could have used that second bathroom. Correct. But no, I want to thank you. I think your plan looks good, and I know I got that from the neighborhood president, that she's very looking forward to you getting in there, improving the house, and it's going to improve the neighborhood. So thank you.
Commissioner Escamilla?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, just checking. So are you happy or okay with your fence? I just want to ask you, are you okay with your fence as is? And
well, I told Andrea, I want to follow code, but of course I want to put a fence if they allow me. If not, I'll do whatever she tells me. She says no fence, no fence. If she says restore the fence, I'll restore it. I'm following as code. Whatever she tells me to do.
And I guess for you, would it make a difference to you between a 3-foot fence and a 4-foot fence if you had the choice?
It don't matter.
Okay.
It don't matter. It look nice with a fence, of course. It don't matter. If she says put a fence, I'll put a fence.
Yeah, and the only reason I ask is, again, I think all of us as commissioners can imagine us living on Flower and, how active, the street is, right? And it's nice. It's a busy, active,
Yes,
vital
and
street.
I have a 4-year-old kid, so
Yeah.
I want to make sure that he stays inside the house.
Yeah, exactly. So definitely appreciate that. And just again, thank you for looking at an old little home and not immediately demolishing it, but looking at how to make it more livable.
Commissioner Leo?
Yeah, I think that, I think you can hear that we're happy that you're here and you're going to fix the property. I think it's good precedent because there's plenty of homes on that street that are small.
Very small.
That may not accommodate a family, a larger family.
Right.
So I think that any investment that expands enough to make it functional is a good thing, creates more of a neighborhood, more permanency and all that kind of stuff. So from my standpoint, I just wanted to know about the ADU, and it sounds like you're going to make that investment and do that as well, which is another good thing. Appreciate it. Really appreciate it.
Commissioner Will?
So currently, you're not able to move in there for over a year.
Yes, I bought the house over
So
you.
it's empty.
Excuse me?
So it's empty right now?
It's empty, correct.
Okay. And you are planning to occupy it?
I'm trying to move in myself.
Okay. You're not trying to restore it as a historical house, right?
Well, I'm doing whatever Andrea tells me to do. I mean, I didn't know it was a historical house, so whatever.
Because that affects my judgment, because I'm picky about that. But if you're remodeling it, man, do
Whatever
it.
you guys
Let's get
say,
it done, all right? So I'm with you on that. And I agree with Commissioner Leo that you need more room, so.
Thank you.
I just want to make sure you take care of all the damage.
I will.
Yeah. So how bad is the inside?
Very bad,
So
very bad.
your
It was,
plumbing structures are all gone or something, or what?
well, I mean,
Or rusted?
there used to be people in there living, homeless. So they destroyed the whole house completely. I mean, I gave Andrea a police report, because it was horrible. I was just getting tired of neighbors calling me, hey, there's people inside. So they destroyed the whole house. They were peeing, doing number 2 inside the house, and it was just horrible. So I told Andrea, the faster move in,
So will you have
get this house nicer.
You have to address the mold problem and termite damage, and
Well, if I have to do it, yes, of course.
Okay.
Of course.
you're not flipping the house?
No.
Okay,
I'm
thank you
staying
very
with-
much.
I'm staying with the house.
And I'm sorry for asking the question, but I just needed to know.
No, it's okay.
Commissioner Ramos?
No questions, just thank you for clarifying that it will be an owner-occupied home and for making the investment and wanting to become a part of the city. So thank you.
Of course. Thank you.
Vice Chair?
Thank you for clarifying with your answer so far. No questions, just thank you for taking on the challenge of doing
Oh, it's a big challenge.
some sort of restoration. The Pepto-Bismol pink is nice, but a restoration would be nicer.
Well, thank you. No questions for me.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chairman.
I do have one more question.
Commissioner
I don't
Deja.
know whether there's a city requirement or not, but the house was built in 1921. I imagine the wiring goes back to 1921. What, is there any requirements that wiring be brought up to standard?
Commissioner Benninger, just to clarify, you're asking about wiring? All right, thank you.
Electrical wiring?
All that is reviewed as part of the building division's plan check process. Our electrical plan check engineer and our building safety division will review to see if the work that's being done requires a full rewiring of the house or if there's certain segments that need to be upgraded.
All set, thank you.
Have we received any written communication or public comments?
We have received public comment prior to the 3:30 PM deadline that has been distributed to the commission and published online. If you're attending this meeting in person and would like to comment on this item, please fill out a request to speak form and turn it into the secretary. If you're participating via Zoom and would like to comment on this item, please select the hand icon and unmute yourself. If you're calling in and would like to comment on this item, please dial 9 and then 6 to unmute yourself. Chair, we do not have any speakers.
Thank you. The public hearing is now closed. Before I ask for a motion, Andrea, just because we're on this slide, just one quick question. The water heater enclosure, exterior water heater enclosure, does the proposed elevation propose where that would be relocated? It's just for consistency of the exterior.
I don't believe it's on that side anymore. See, I think the elevation shows it to the site plan.
Well, I'm sure you can work with the applicant, but
Sure.
I'm assuming just for design consistency,
Yes.
since there is an exterior enclosure, that you would want it to.
Match the house. Yeah, we'll make sure.
And there's no other, Commissioner Escamilla?
No, I think at this point, it's just the deliberation between us up here. And I would make the argument that, the 4-foot fence for this particular house and this particular location will end up saving him money on the, cost of it. It's already there. It's been there. There's a legal non-conforming fence. Again, for any of us that were living directly on Flower Street, I think we'd feel safer and more secure having that little bit of additional height there. So I do think that condition, does not make sense to me personally. And I was looking through the attachment on the actual resolution, and I actually couldn't find anything directly speaking to the fence. It's only in the staff report. So I didn't see any subsection, line, or clause that included that the fence had to be moved. So I'm actually okay with just changing the staff report. And I don't know if that's a lower barrier than including an additional clause or striking a clause from the resolution draft. Because again, I don't see anything in that resolution for the fence to be removed. So that's, again, just to everyone here.
I'm in agreement with Commissioner Escamilla and would also like to either just make sure that restrictive language isn't included.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Commissioners, the fence topic is included as condition number 3 on the resolution. And it does state that the existing non-conforming front yard fence shall be removed prior to issuance of the building permits. If the owner wishes to replace, then it discusses submitting for an application and having it being limited to the current code height of 3 feet in height. So if it's the motion maker's desire to have that stricken from the resolution, or have the language modified to at least state like restoration of like the paint, removal of the rust, things like that, then you can modify the language. And then if the seconder, seconds as amended, then that's an option.
Yeah, and that would be my preference. And again, I'm still not saying, I'm so sorry, Ali. So you said page 3, no, item 3 or item 3? Okay.
Well, while Commissioner Escamilla is looking through, whoever makes the motion, I will also remind that staff did ask that we include a condition for the landscaping as well. So as you formulate your condition, if you do wish to amend condition 3, but also include the condition for the landscaping as well.
So I'm okay with making the motion. Like I said, I just literally cannot find the section that I would need to modify, but I would be modifying with the intent of restoring, repairing, and replacing any damaged sections of the fence.
So I have a question for staff while they look at that. So in the process of restoring or repairing that fence, if the applicant realized that it might make more sense to just replace the fence, is there a way that we can word it so that they're able to replace it to a fence of the same height? Because all we can see are the pictures of the fence, but we don't know its real condition. At least I don't know its real condition. So I don't feel comfortable with requiring restoration or repair of that specific fence, but I would like the applicant to have the ability to replace the fence to one of the same height, which would be 4 feet versus 3.
So thank you, Commissioner. The zoning code under section 41-610 prescribes that a fence has to be 3 feet in height for a roadway like this. If the applicant were to seek modification of that, that would have had to been a separate minor exception application in accordance with Article 5 of the zoning code. So the Planning Commission cannot add an application this evening and then approve it without an analysis and all that sort of stuff. So if I may, hearing kind of the desires of some of the commissioners, what could be done is allowing the restoration of the fence as is. If the fence needs to be sort of temporarily removed and restored exactly as it appears today and reinstalled, that's okay, by way of condition. But when we start opening the door to say, well, if it doesn't work, the restoration, they can install another one of a different design or, whatnot, up to 4 feet, that would need a separate minor exception application. And that's before the zoning administrator, not the Planning Commission.
Okay, understood. So maybe just adding something as simple as feasible, just so that they're not tied to this fence in case it doesn't work.
Yeah, I guess I would actually just limit it because it is a very particular case that it is just an existing legal non-conforming fence that's fine that needs to be repaired and replaced. So my proposed language would just be to strike the be removed. So instead, be removed shall be repaired, so repainted, repaired, and all visible rust removed prior to issuance of the building permits. I think that captures the spirit of what I intend to move on, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Then just for the record, then the conditions, first sentence would read, the existing non-conforming front yard fence shall be repaired with repaint and removal of rust.
Repaired, comma, repainted, comma, and all visible rust removed.
Comma, prior to issuance of building permit.
Right, and I think the order probably makes sense, the visible rust removed, repainted, and repaired, or however that order makes most sense.
Logical
Yes.
sequence, yes, thank you.
I just have one more clarifying question. If the applicant, I don't know, decided they no longer wanted that fence and maybe they wanted to go through the process and just get a completely new fence, knowing that there is a different height allowance, are they able to do that with this condition, even though we're using the word shall?
Why are we conditioning that we need a
Can I
fence?
have my question answered first, please? Thank you.
Sorry, if I may, Commissioner Ramos, yeah, the intention is to essentially then leave the rest of the clause in there, so the language will still read, if the property owner wishes to replace the fence.
Okay, wishes,
Then they have
okay.
the, yeah, so that is completely stays the same. It's
Perfect.
really just that one line.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioners, if I may, question for our lawyer. Before we add all these extra language to the condition, does the applicant have the opportunity to confirm that he's amicable to all these conditions that we're revising?
That's an excellent point you raised. I think it would be, that would make sense. Yes, I would think it would be best practice. Yes.
Sorry,
Sorry,
have you- yeah.
as a formality, so that would require reopening the public hearing, and you'd have to get the consent of your colleagues to do that, and then just ask and then close the public
So
hearing.
let me try to encapsulate. There is no new condition on the fence. We're giving the owner the option. He can repair the fence as is, 4 feet, or he can go, which was Commissioner Ramos asked, he can reduce the size if he wants to replace it, it'll go to regular code. The only thing that we're adding is that strip of landscape that runs next to property line, if I understand correctly, is what we're talking about. And I would assume, and this is just me assuming, that he would probably want a small barrier so his neighbors can't see everything that's going on in his backyard, but that's up to him. So I think if we just put in a landscape, and then you guys figure out the rest, he's gonna figure it out, because clearly the applicant's been willing to work with us. So I think we give the flexibility to go ahead and do that. And all we're really doing is modifying the one and saying, please put in some landscape. That's pretty much all we're asking. So if that makes sense to everybody. Okay. Does it make sense to you, Alan? You don't like landscape?
Yep, I just want to make sure that we're not.
Yeah, we're not burdening him.
burdening
And I think the fence, we're not burdening him at all. He's got a complete option. He's got both options.
Yeah, and I believe that Commissioner Escamilla asked the applicant directly in his, yeah, and,
He's got both.
but the applicant's not being ordered to do anything regarding the
Okay,
fence.
if that's the case, Commissioner Escamilla, if you could, for the one last time, verbalize
Of
the
course.
amendment.
Yeah, and I wanted to make sure that we include that landscaping. Again, the landscaping requirement appears to already be in there under condition 2, so I wasn't sure if I needed to add additional landscape requirements, because I think made staff aware of what the issue was around the sites. I don't think I need to add anything there. Is that my understanding?
That's correct. Number 2 doesn't need to be modified
Oh, okay.
because it's already a requirement that all front and side yards be required in the code. And then number 3, we're simply introducing the flexibility that
Okay.
Commissioner Escamilla raised initially.
Okay. Okay, so I'm ready to make my motion, Chair.
So
Thank
point
you.
of order, are we keeping the original resolution, or are we're Mickey Mousing with it? If Mickey Mousing with it,
Yeah, no,
I want
I-
to keep it simple.
I-
Let's pass it as is.
So
'cause-
Commissioner Escamilla, I think, was going to make a
Yeah, so
recommendation.
I'll make the motion, but yeah, the motion shouldn't impact the resolution because it refers back to the conditions. So we're only modifying that one attachment A in section 3, and it's going to be one deletion with about 7 or 8 words added. All right. So
That's
let's-
right, but Commissioner Escamilla, upon rereading number 2, that's just talking about modification, so it actually doesn't expressly state the need for the landscape plan.
Okay, so
That's
we'll
where
add that.
that should be a new condition, like number 5
Okay.
on the resolution. So let's start with number 3 if you'd like, and then we can talk through number 5. But I think staff ordinarily, if the commission doesn't want to get into the weeds of like the language, we take the public record, the audio, the video, we craft it, and then we present it to the chair for his final signature on the resolution. So that's just rest assured, that's how the process works.
Okay, thank you. So I would like to make a motion to adopt a resolution approving site plan review number 2023-03 with the modifications to the conditions under section 3 to remove, let's see, in the sentence shall be removed prior, to remove the word removed and replace it with, let's see, all rust removed, repainted and repaired prior to the issuance. And then I would like to add a 5th condition requiring an update to the side yard landscape to be included in the approval of the site plan.
I'd
Do we have a
second that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Escamilla, a second by Commissioner Ramos. Madam Secretary, please call roll.
Commissioner Benninger,
Aye.
Commissioner Escamilla,
Aye.
Commissioner Leo, Commissioner Ramos,
Aye.
Commissioner Wu, Commissioner Wu,
Give me a moment.
Vice Chair Oliva,
Aye.
Chair Pham,
Aye.
Commissioner Wu,
I will vote for the remodeling. I don't know all this messing around with the language.
Is that a nay?
Aye.
motion approved by unanimous consent.
Thank you. That concludes the business calendar. Moving on to staff comments. Ali, do you have any comments?
Thank you. Well, first of all, welcome back to our esteemed colleague, Jose Montoya, who welcomed a new member to his family. I'm sure he'd be happy to tell you all about that.
Thank you. Feels good to be back.
He means it too. And then secondly, we're really pleased to share that a couple of Thursdays ago, or last Thursday, it seems, we attended the annual Affordable Housing Awards breakfast hosted in Orange County, and a project that the commission and city council helped approve called Legacy Square, with 93 affordable units and a large community space right here in downtown, won the top project of the year prize. So thank you to the commission for your role in approving that project. And yes, and of course, thank you to the council members as well. That's it for staff comments.
Does the commission have any comments? Commissioner Badger?
No comments, thank you. And first question, boy or girl?
A girl.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Commissioner Escamilla?
Yeah, congratulations and welcome back, though, I'm sure you also don't want to be here sometimes, and sometimes you do want to be here, depending on what's going on. But I think Ali was also a little bit modest and also not thanking the Santa Ana planning team that, helped all this put together. And in fact, Ali, I think, participating in many of those projects that got awards that day. And Pedro, sorry, Pedro. That's right, it was Pedro's project. That's right. So yeah, excellent result over there.
Commissioner Leo?
I'm just going to reiterate what I said at the last meeting. The Bristol-related discussion is going on outside of us. It is not going on in this room. We need to have a public hearing and just let everybody talk about the project. It's a massive project. It could really change parts of the city depending on what we decide to do. I think we just need to start the process. And because I've watched Anaheim approve OC Vibe and the Disney Forward project while we've been sitting on this one. So we need to figure out as a city what we want to do. And I think this is the place where the public's going to be able to come and we're all going to be able to give our input. And if the city can work out its agreements or not agreements, then so be it. But we need to have the discussion. It's just too much going on around us and not including us.
Commissioner Will?
Congratulations and welcome.
Commissioner Ramos?
Like everyone else, just congratulations, and thank you, staff, for being here again and putting up with us.
Vice Chair?
No comments.
Yes, congratulations. Thank you, and welcome to the team. Other than that, we'll adjourn the meeting. Next meeting will be held May